This is the global news on Atlantic Television Network. First, the headlines. Illegal oil refining explosion kills 35 people in Rivers State. Unical probe panel indicts Professor Ndifon of misconduct. EFCC secures arrest warrant for Desiani Alison Maduike. Port Harcourt Water Refinery is under pressure of December deadline. Dengue death top 1,000 in worst outbreak in Bangladesh. Hip-hop mogul Kanye West speaks on music industry. Filante fans applaud the team against the Rivers United. With us on the global news tonight, here is our bulletin in full. Over 35 people are feared dead following an explosion in an illegal oil refining site in Ibas, a community in Emoha, local government area of Rivers State. Eyewitness said the incident occurred late Sunday night when some people in the community, numbering over 40, were scooping petroleum products, while a close source in the community identified as Emmanuel said the victims were selling the products at the refining site when the place suddenly went up in flames. The father said people from neighboring Isiokbo in the current local government area of the state, Iba and Odoha, in the Moha local government area were affected, while many Isiokbo, Odoha and Iba people were there. 7 of the people died inside the pit where they were scooping the crude, while about 10 burnt to charcoal by the pit. When contacted, spokesperson for the State Police Command, Gracie Ringekoko, said investigation is ongoing. The Rivers State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal sitting in Abuja on Monday dismissed all the 4 petitions seeking to nullify the election of Governor Similaye Fubara of Rivers State. The Independent National Electoral Commission had declared PDP's Fubara as winner of the gubernatorial election, having polled a total of 302,614 votes ahead of the other contestants. But dissatisfied with the outcome of the governorship election, the various political parties and their candidates approached the Election Petition Tribunal seeking to nullify the election held on March 18, 2023. The dismissed petitions were separately filed by the Accord Party and its candidates, Dumolo Briggs, Tonye Cole of the All Progressive Congress, Beatrice Itubo of the Labour Party, and Innocent Eku of the Allied People's Movement. In all the 4 judgments on Monday, the tribunal affirmed the election of Fubara as a validly elected governor of Rivers State. The Justice Cletus Emi Foye led 3 members separately dismissed all the 4 petitions for lacking in merit on jurisdictional grounds and for being incompetent. And while ruling on the Labour Party's petition, the tribunal dismissed the petition for lacking in merit and for failure of the petitioners to prove their allegations. Similarly, the tribunal dismissed the petition of Lulu Briggs of the AP that argued that Fubara was not validly elected with a majority of the lawful votes cast in the election and that the election was marred by irregularities, while the tribunal held that Lulu Briggs' claim that the election was not conducted in substantial compliance with the provisions of both the 1999 Constitution as amended and the Electoral Act 2022 was not proven beyond reasonable doubt. Lulu Briggs had urged the court to order INEC to withdraw the certificate of return that was issued to Fubara and order a fresh governorship election in Rivers State. Similarly, the tribunal dismissed the petition filed by Innocent Eku of the Allied People's Movement for lacking in merit, while the tribunal also awarded a cost of 500,000 naira against the petitioner and in favor of the respondent. On his part, Tonye Cole of the APC is specifically asking the tribunal to sack Fubara from office because he, as at the time of the election, was not qualified to run, adding that Fubara didn't resign from his post as Accountant General and Permanent Secretary in Rivers State. However, in its judgment, the tribunal held that nomination of a candidate is an internal affairs of a political party. Governorship candidate of the All Progressive Congress in Akwa Ibom State, Obong Akanimo Udofia, has taken the decision of his party to appeal the judgment of the Election Petition Tribunal. The 3-man panel led by Justice Adekunle Adeleye last week dismissed the APC candidate's petition on the grounds that the allegations of substantial non-compliance and the electoral law in the conduct of the elections were not sufficiently proved by the petitioner. A statement issued in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, Udofia said the decision of the tribunal regarding the outcome of the March 18, 2023 governorship election was shocking, unjust, and unacceptable, adding that the APC in the state was disappointed as to how the tribunal arrived at those outcomes in the face of glaring evidence of infractions on the Electoral Act and the 1999 Constitution. Said on Thursday, 28 September 2023, the Akwa Ibom State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal dismissed our petition filed against the declaration of Pastor Umor Eno as Governor of Akwa Ibom State by the Independent National Electoral Commission, noting that he would continue to uphold the rule of law and respect for the judiciary while expressing confidence that the appeal would give a fair hearing. He called on his supporters to remain calm and law-abiding as he moved forward with the appeal. Akwa Ibom State Governor, His Excellency Pastor Umor Eno, today inaugurated 368 personal assistants from the 368 wards in the state. During the brief ceremony at Government House Banquet Hall, the governor also appointed Chief Godwin Tukude, his political advisor, Waisa Udo Kirian Akpan from Ikotekpane Senatorial District, Archbishop Samuel Akpan from Eket Senatorial District, and Right Honorable Dr. Henry Archibald from Uyo Senatorial District were announced as honorary special advisors. And political affairs. Life has returned to Cross River's prestigious Marina Resort, which was shut down months ago following a boat mishap that claimed the lives of 3 students. Reopening the resort in the late hours of Sunday, Governor Basi Otu said the Relaxation Tourist Center was back and they would continue to develop it to international standards. This is coming after the Marina Resort, which houses the Slavery Museum and the Moribond Cinema Hall, was shut down on Saturday, June 24, after a boat accident that claimed the lives of 3 medical students from Ahmadu Bello University, Niger Delta University, and the University of Uyo, who visited Calabar for their annual Health Week hosted by the University of Calabar, represented by Mr. Elvert Ayambem, Speaker of the Cross River State House of Assembly. Governor Otu said, apart from carrying out some major renovations in the resorts, they had also beefed up security with the gunboats ready for 24 hours. On his part, Mr. Ojoy Ekpenyong, Managing Director, Cross River Tourism Bureau, said he was elated with the rebranding of the resort with 24-hour electricity, a clean environment, and ready service providers, while calling on people both within and outside of the state to visit the resort and enjoy all it had to offer in a serene and secure environment. One of the fund seekers, Dr. Fidelia Esu, who came with her family, said she saw in the rebranded resort there is hope that the facility would go back the way it used to be, and it was an exciting time. The former People's Redemption Party governorship candidate in Delta State, Emmanuel Igbini, has blamed the Edo and Delta State government for allowing the Benin-Sapele-Warri section of the East West Expressway to deteriorate to the current eyesore without fixing it. He particularly blamed the Governor Godwin Obaseki of Edo State and the immediate past Governor of Delta State, Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa, for paying scant attention to the sufferings of their citizens and other Nigerians using the federal road. Even if the federal government failed in its duty, the state would have done the repairs to demand for refund from the federal government, according to him. They must be reminded that their primary constitutional duty is the safety and security of the people living in and transiting through their state, adding that the regular maintenance of all roads in their state is part of the constitutional duty, while reminding Nigerians that it has remained the policy of the past and present federal governments to allow refund state governments that embark on maintaining or rehabilitating federal roads in their states, and that Edo and Delta governments had benefited from such refunds. The probe panel set up by the University of Calabar to investigate allegations of sexual harassment of female students by the suspended Dean of Schools of Faculty of Law, University of Calabar, Professor Cyril Defon has found the senior lecturer guilty of gross misconduct. In the report of the panel set up to investigate alleged misconduct, sexual harassment, and abuse of office leveled against Professor Defon, it established that the suspended dean, Professor Cyril Osim Defon, was using his official position to both intimidate and bargain for sexual favor from the female students in the Faculty of Law. It also established that the suspended dean had been involved in student exploitation and had been perpetrating cruelty against those students by forestalling the graduation of some female students at the appropriate time, by withholding and refusing to release their results, and threatening some that they would never graduate from the faculty or go to the law school. Earlier in September, Defon failed to appear before the panel constituted to investigate the allegations against him after the school vice chancellor, Professor Florence Obi, constituted the administrative panel to thoroughly investigate the allegations against Defon. The panel relied on oral and written submissions and physical and virtual participation from victims, fellow lecturers, including professors and the president of the Law Students Association of the University of Calabar, Obi Benedict Otu, and the panel further established that the suspended dean was compelling the law students to pay for a faculty journal that was non-existent for 3 consecutive academic sections. Therefore, the panel recommended that the suspended dean of law should face the Statutory Disciplinary Committee of the University of Calabar for appropriate sanctions applicable to acts of both major and gross misconduct. The police command in Ebony State says the suspected armed men have burnt 3 commuter buses, 4 motorcycles, and 1 tricycle in the state. Spokesperson of the command, SP Onova Boyeya, said the attack occurred in Ezambo, Ahuku local government area of the state along the Enugu-Abakaliki Expressway. She also said the armed men are suspected to be members of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, adding that no life was lost during the attack. The command spokesperson noted that operatives of the command have been dispatched to the scene of the incident to fish out the perpetrators, stressing that before the end of the day, the perpetrators will be apprehended. Ondo State Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu has concluded plans to construct 700 kilometers of rural roads across the 18 local government areas of the state to boost the economic prosperity of the state. The governor disclosed this through his special advisor on rural and community development, Honorable Kolowale Babatunde, at an interactive section in Ondo State. He said the construction of the rural roads would ensure the rapid transformation to the rural communities across the state, adding that the 700 kilometers of road would be constructed on the Rural Access and Marketing Project, which is a World Bank assisted program, adding that the road construction will be carried out in phases and be funded through the World Bank and the state counterpart fund. He also said the state government keyed into RAM for ease of transporting agricultural products and to prevent frequent spoilage farm produce, while revamping of the rural roads would help to reduce issues of food scarcity and grant access to the rural parts of the state for marketing and farming activities. The Lagos State government has commenced the demolition of shanties and makeshifts along the Red Line CT project in a bid to reclaim right-of-way within the Red Rail Line corridors from Agbado, Ogun, Ebute Meta, Lagos State. This is coming after the enforcement team was led by the Commissioner for Physical Planning and Urban Development, Dr. Oloyinka Olumide, and was accompanied by Special Advisor EGIS and Urban Development, Dr. Olajide Babatunde, General Manager, Lagos State Building Control Agency, Mr. Bolohan Oki, and the senior directors of both the agency and ministry. 2 new churches under construction were sealed and marked with notices, while traders hurriedly removed their wares from the makeshift stores as they knocked down, and members of the demolition team sensitized traders at various locations on the danger of trading on the new train corridor, while insisting that the lives of residents of Lagos were more important than any business. Oki, who supervised the removal of obstructions on the road, insisted that houses whose fences encroached on road setbacks must be removed, while Olumide said the enforcement would continue along the entire train corridor, adding that the exercise would be sustained to keep the Red Rail Line project corridor safe for all Lagos residents. Men of the Ondo State Command of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps have arrested two suspected members of a child trafficking syndicate in Akure, Ondo State capital. The two suspected human syndicate, Babatunde Oluwa Shola, aka Osanle, and Fawowa Dada, were arrested following a report of a missing girl who was discovered to have been moving the girl to Libya. Speaking on the arrest of the two victims, the State Public Relations Officer, Mr. Damembo Daniel, said Oluwashala, who is a carpenter from Osun State but resides in Akure, took 3 girls from Akure to Libya sometime in April 2023 in collaboration with Dada. Daniel said the suspect got one of the girls who were moved to Libya with the help of one Dada Iya Alaso and sent them to Libya, adding that the 57-year-old suspect already assisting the cops in their investigations to ensure the return of the girls to Nigeria. The National and State House of Assembly Election Petition Tribunal sitting in Lafia has ordered a rerun election after nullifying the return of Ove John of the People's Democratic Party as the duly elected member representing Kefi East constituency at the Nasarawa State House of Assembly. The decision is coming after the Independent National Electoral Commission declared Ove John the winner of the March 18th polls. The 3-member panel headed by Justice Francisca Isong Nang, while delivering the judgments in Lafia, concluded that INEC erred in declaring the PDP candidate as the winner, while overlooking Isa Adamu from the All Progressive Congress. The tribunal explained that the margin with which Ove led, standing at 104 votes, fell below the total number of votes who were accredited in the 4 polling units where elections were annulled by the INEC. In addressing the discrepancy, the Justice Francisca Isong Nang led the tribunal ordered a rerun at the 4 affected polling units, including Yakade Primary School, Maiganda 014, Police Station 2, and Angwan Nepa within the constituency. The Governorship Election Petition Tribunal sitting in Lafia, Nasarawa State capital, has declared the gubernatorial candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Dr. David Ombugadu, as the winner of the March 18th governorship election in the state. This is coming after Ombugadu had been dragged INEC and Abdullahi Sule to the petition tribunal, challenging his announcement as governor, and urged the tribunal to declare him as the winner of the election. While delivering the verdict virtually, the chairman of the tribunal, Justice Ezekiel Ajayi, said the first, second, and third respondent failed to prove the defense, while the tribunal ordered that the Independent National Electoral Commission should retrieve the certificate of return from Sule and issue another one to Dr. Ombugadu. The Nasarawa State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal has nullified a victory of Governor Abdullahi Sule. The 3-man panel, led by Justice Ezekiel Ajayi, while delivering the judgment via Zoom, and Emmanuel Ombugadu of the People's Democratic Party is the winner. 2 of the justices agreed that the election was won by the PDP, while 1 judge dissented, while Ezekiel maintained that the petitioner was able to prove his case beyond reasonable doubt. Former Governor Abdullahi Adamu and Tanko Al-Makura were among political dignitaries present at the court when the Independent National Electoral Commission in Lafia declared Abdullahi Sule the winner of the governorship election in Nasarawa State in March. Professor Ishaya Tanko, the INEC returning officer, said that the APC candidate polled a total of 347,209 votes to defeat his closest opponent, David Ombungadu, the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, who got to 116 votes. The Minister of the Federal Republic for the Capital Territory, Barrister Yeso Wike, says neither sentiments nor emotion will stand in his way of delivering on his mandate as a minister. The former governor stated that this in Abuja in reaction to the trending video of Abuja Urban Mass Transit Company staff lamenting over the sack of the company's managing director. You recall that the MD and Chief Executive Officer of the company, Mr. Najib Abdul Salam, was among the 21 heads of parastatals, agencies, and companies of the FCT administration that were sacked by the minister on Wednesday. According to the minister, when I watch people on video crying that somebody has been removed and that he has been doing well, but the question is, if you have been doing well, the minister queried, where are the bosses? No sentiment, no emotions will be considered when we are doing what is right. We will do the right thing for the interests of the people. If you like, carry 20 people, put a video and cry as much as you want to cry. It will not bother us. What bothers us, he said, is the reality on the ground. The minister said, while reacting to this due to development on ATM blowout, a public affairs analyst at River State Director, National Orientation Agency, Barrister Ayotamana Young, said if the government must progress, empathy has to give way. He called for a balance so as not to create public conflict as we are dealing with humans. There is a report.
Empathy sometimes is also part of governance because you're also dealing with human beings. Empathy is also part of governance. But where the empathy stops is where it conflicts with public interests. And I think that is part of what he's saying. What he's saying does not mean that he has no regard for what those workers are doing, but where it conflicts with public interest and with the progress of the country, empathy has to give way so that the country can make progress.
Barrister Ayatamana Younger further stated that the role of the minister is an appointive position, and if whoever occupies such position does not perform, they would also face being sacked. Hence, the need to put aside sentiments.
The person that is involved is not a public servant, is not a civil servant. It's not a civil servant. He's an appointee. And as an appointee of government, you also know that whoever appointed you also has the power to fire. The appointer has the power to fire the appointee where you are not meeting his expectations. Obviously, from the narrative of the minister, the director or the secretary that is involved in that directorate must have been there for a very long time. And he also raised the issue of performance. And raising the issue of performance, he raised the question, if you have performed so well, where are the bosses? Where are the bosses? And that in itself provokes a lot of other arguments.
Safe Haven has arrested 2 persons over the killing of a seminarian Naman Stephen Ngofe. This is coming after Ngofe was killed on September 9, 2023 by suspected bandits who attacked and burnt the Catholic Church parish house in Kabaton, Zangon, Kataf, the government area of Kaduna State. The spokesperson of the Operation Safe Haven Operation, Captain Oya James, who paraded the suspect at the OPSH headquarters, gave their names as Ahmed Abdullahi, and Hassan Mato, adding that the suspect would be handed over to the police as soon as an investigation is completed. However, Abdullahi denied the allegation, adding that he was unaware of the crime. The chairperson of Nigerian Labour Congress in Zamfara State Council, Comrade Sani Haliru, says state workers receive stipends as remuneration and not wages going by the dictate of the prevailing economic circumstances. Comrade Sani Haliru disclosed this in Gusau while revealing Zamfara NLC's position on the state negotiation between federal government and organized labor, stating that there was need to note in strong terms that states are the organs which support and are pillars which hold the center, stressing that states are at the mercy of state governors who hold power with impunity and disregard constitutional provision. He said the two states should be the central figures to concentrate on. Third State Police Command has confirmed the electrocution of a family of 4 around the Nyavo area of Jalingo, that the state capital. The command's public relations officer, Mr. Abdullahi Usman, confirmed the incident in a statement in Jalingo. The victims are Raymond on Fonbok, 44, his wife Fonbong, Raymond, Raymond, 15, and first Raymond, 13 years old, while the police have received, information indicating that immediately power was restored, the transformer serving the area blew up and many houses within the neighborhood experienced high electric voltage, which might have led to the fire outbreak that inflicted burns on the victim. The police also said detectives quickly evacuated the victims to Federal Medical Center, Jalingo, for treatment, but they were confirmed dead on arrival. According to the police statement, the remains of the deceased have been deposited at the Federal Medical Center, Jalingo, for autopsy, while investigation is on to ascertain the actual cause of the incident. The Gombe State Governor Muhammadu Inuwa Yahaya has approved 10,000 naira transport allowance for workers pending the determination of a new minimum wage. Yahaya, who disclosed this on Sunday in his 63rd Independence Day message, the governor, who doubles as the chairman of the Northern Governors Forum, said the state has also provided food palliative targeting 400,000 beneficiaries. Our administration has already approved 10,000 naira transport allowance to all workers in the state pending the determination of a new minimum wage. We have also provided palliative assistance under our food distribution program, which targets 400,000 beneficiaries. However, the approved figure is a reduced amount compared to the 35,000 naira approved for federal government workers by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. Nigeria's minimum monthly wage approved in 2019 is 30,000 naira. However, as headline inflation soared to 25.80% in August 2023, worsened by fuel subsidy removal, the clamor for a new wage has heightened. The Plateau State Commissioner for Youth and Sports, Mr. Lawandi Dati, has advised the youth against jungle justice while urging them to report their concerns to constituted authorities. Dati stated this when he visited the family of the late Winbe Gofwan, who was gruesomely murdered by a mob in Jos on September 25th. Gofwan, a minibus driver, was murdered by a mob on allegation. The commissioner urged the youth to be law-abiding citizens and avoid taking laws into their hands, and applauded the Nigerian police force for immediate arrest one of the suspects. That he extended his condolences to the deceased family and the entire Plateau youth and called on the Plateau government to ensure that the perpetrators of the heinous crime were brought to justice. Elder John Goback, former secretary to the government of Plateau State, described the murder of Gofwan as a devastating episode and described the late Gofwan as an industrious and receptive young man who cared about people. The National Human Rights Commission says it received over 6,000 cases of human rights violations during the 2023 elections. The National Human Rights Commission Executive Secretary Tony Ojukwu, who disclosed this, said some of them were resolved on the spot by the Independent National Electoral Commission, while others were being prosecuted by the Nigerian police force and raised concern over the rate of torture and of citizens by security personnel. He said cases of human rights violations can also constitute criminal offenses because where you have arrested people violating election-related cases and you torture them, those criminal cases are also going to court. Ojukwu advised that any citizen who has evidence of torture should come forward to complain. The Youth Party has demanded that all Progressive Congress-led federal government should provide palliatives to the masses from the 30% increase in the FARC disbursement to the three tiers of government, especially in order to avert the impending NLC strike. A statement issued by its National Publicity Secretary, Ayodele Adio, noted that President Bola Tinubu's independence speech failed to appeal to NLC to call off the impending strike or state quantifiable and time-bound interventions that can address the current hardship faced by Nigerians. This is coming ahead of the indefinite strike declared by the organized labor, while the Youth Party has accused the federal government of applying a slow and unserious cosmetic rise-sharing approach to a situation that demands a robust, sustainable economic way forward, adding that President Tinubu's administration removed the petrol subsidy without any plan to protect the young, poor, and vulnerable from the economic impact. The party noted that despite the increase in the monthly revenue of the government since June, it has not translated into serious effort towards affordable public transport, education, or public health systems for the masses, while consequently the party demanded that the APC-led government provide palliatives to the masses from the 30% increase in FARC disbursement to the three tiers of government to avert the impending NLC strike. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission says it has secured an arrest warrant for former Minister of Petroleum Resources, Diziani Alison Madueke. The anti-graft agency has also initiated extradition proceedings to bring the former minister back to Nigeria. Dele Oyewale, EFCC's acting spokesman who confirmed the development, said following alleged bribery allegations, Alison Madueke was arraigned today at the Westminster Court in London, United Kingdom. Although the charges were preferred against her at the London court are different from the 13-count charges bordering on money laundering the EFCC has raised against her. Speaking on the new development, Oyewale said, "It is instructive to note that criminality is criminality irrespective of jurisdiction, differences, and no crime can be unpunished, stressing that the money laundering charges for which Madueke is answerable to the EFCC cover jurisdiction in Dubai, the United Kingdom, the United States of America, and Nigeria." President Bola Tinubu has approved 35,000 provisional wage award for all Treasury-paid federal government workers for 6 months, following further consultations within the federal government delegation that met with the leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress. This is coming after a meeting between two parties, while the federal government pledged its commitment to fast-track the provision of compressed natural gas buses to ease public transportation difficulties associated with the removal of petrol subsidy. The federal government also committed to the provision of the funds for micro and small-scale enterprises as well as waivers on VAT and on diesel for the next 6 months, and announced that it will commence payment of 75,000 to 15 million naira to 15 million household at 25,000 per month for a 3-month period from October to December 2023 are part of the decision reached during the meeting, which was held at the presidential villa Abuja, including several significant agreements and commitments, were also reached by both parties. A statement signed by the Minister of Information and National Orientation Agency, Mohammed Idris, said the extensive discussions led to the resolutions, stressing that the outstanding issues can only be resolved when workers are actively engaged in their roles and not during strikes, adding that a subcommittee will be established to work out the implementation details of all items concerning government interventions aimed at mitigating the effect of fuel subsidy removal. The People Democratic Party has criticized President Bola Tinubu over his 63rd Independence Day address to Nigerians, claiming it was empty and bereft of ideas. The PDP also said the speech by the president was merely aspiration in the wrong direction, especially in the face of the harrowing experiences being encountered by Nigerians under the All Progressive Congress administration. According to the party, Tinubu's admission in his speech that his administration is responsible for the current excruciating hardship in the country validates PDP's position that the Tinubu-led government lacks the competence, capacity, required skills, and humanness to effectively run the affairs of the nation. A statement by the National Publicity Secretary of the party, Honorable Debo Ologunagba, the PDP insisted that Nigerians do not need to pass through agonizing hardship, as it claimed was being excused by the president if the nation is run by a government that has the required vision and skills to harness and manage the nation's economic potentials and national comparative advantage, adding that the expectation of Nigerians on a day like this was for a presidential speech that will provide concrete solutions to critical challenges of the nation, including security, as well as the crisis in the electricity and petroleum sectors. They stress that indeed any serious government with requisite capacity and vision will set a Marshall Plan on every critical sector. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back. global news tonight. In the pursuit of strengthening Nigeria's democracy, a coalition of indigenous ethnic nationalities calls for drastic change in the nation's constitution. The coalition, in a statement signed by its chairman, Professor Benjamin Okaba, said 109 years after the amalgamation of diverse ethnic nationalities of various sizes, cultures, and aspirations, and 63 years after independence, Nigeria is still unable to live together in harmony or accept common national identity. The coalition regrets that the independence of 1960 has turned out to be a stealthy replacement of Western imperialism with the yoke of settler colonialism, said indigenous communities in Nigeria have faced a myriad of challenges, including environmental degradation, land dispossession, the threat of annihilation, and a lack of access to essential services. It therefore called for a new constitution that would return the country to a symmetric federal structure with a guarantee of equal representation to all regions and equitable distribution of power that could ensure the right of every Nigerian, irrespective of population, size of the region, or place of birth or faith. Reacting to this development, an ATN Blowout Public Affairs Analyst, Rivers State Director, National Orientation Agency, Barrister Ayatamuna Young, has supported the coalition calls for a new constitution, as this has been on the front burner of public discussion, and he advocated for leaders in position of power to walk the talk.
Issues that they are canvassing are issues that have been on the front burner of public discourse in trying to make our nation better. And I believe that we should be walking the talk. These are issues of leadership, and those that are in this of the coalition at one point or the other have also been in government where they should be able to influence some of these things. I think we need to, what they are doing is correct. There's no doubt about it, because we need to engage the citadels of power. We must continue to engage with the citadels of power towards making sure that our issues.
Barrister Ayatamuna Young for the urge for all hands to be on deck as regards nation building, as it is never a walk in the park.
But let me add up that at the end of the day, we are talking about nation building, and it's not something that it's not a walk in the park. It's something that we have to ensure that all hands are on deck. All hands are on deck. As citizens, what they have done by coming out with that publication is also comment. They are in a position to engage with the levers of power. And beyond making publications, I think they should be able to secure audience with government and sit down with government, negotiate towards negotiating the way forward. We have had we have had positions like this in the past, but there are also actions that have been taken on the side of government and the people that we have not looked at. For instance, the 2014 national conference, which we spent billions of naira as a country. That document is just there, filled with dust. Nobody has bothered to implement it. And this is the time that I think we should be able to dust off that document, which has handled quite a number of these issues that we are still contending and contesting with. It addressed most of these issues.
A special assistant on public communications, Frank Shaibu, to Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the 2023 election, says the independence of the United States of American judiciary led to President Bola Tinubu's ultimate defeat at the Northern District of Illinois Court. He said this while reacting to the order by Justice Nancy Maldonado for the Chicago State University to release all Tinubu's academic records to Atiku, adding that Tinubu had continued to evade justice since 1999, when the legendary human rights lawyer Gani Fawemi first blew the lead on his certificate scam. Atiku's aide and said rather than deliver justice on the merits of the case, judges had continued to give Tinubu victory based on technicalities, claiming the development had led to over 20 dubious victories, stressing that it was unfortunate that the Nigerian judiciary had failed to live up to expectations as the last hope of the common man. Bill Ambassador Tinubu's lawyers and former National Legal Advisor of the All Progressive Congress, Babatunde Ogala, who had described the U.S. court victory as insignificant. The former Minister of Aviation, Chief Osita Chidoka, says a United States court order directing the Chicago State University to release the academic records of President Bola Tinubu to the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the 2023 elections, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, is a national disgrace. The former court marshal of the Federal Road Safety Commission further observed that it was worrisome that authorities such as the Department of State Services, National Intelligence Agency, the Independent National Electoral Commission, and the Embassy of Nigeria with its staff in Washington, D.C. could not unravel the circumstances over the academic history of the president, leaving the daunting task for Atiku to do. He particularly expressed regret that all the aforementioned institutions allowed a man to be sworn in without a definitive statement about his qualifications, which has become a national tragedy, stating that for 23 years, the issue of President Tinubu has been a recurring decimal in the national equation, while under his reign, a current youth court member is serving as a minister and people under investigation by the EFCC and made public are sitting in the Federal Executive Council, and they all pass through security screening. This is coming after United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois had on Saturday ruled in favor of Atiku and ordered that the Chicago State University should release President Tinubu's academic record to the former vice president by Monday, October 2nd. According to him, the leadership and relevant institutions of the country should bow their heads in shame if eventually it was discovered that the occupier of the nation's #1 office forged his certificate, stressing that the development was both a national and international embarrassment. Chidoka said if the certificate is not forged, the president should conduct a wide-ranging reorganization of the national security system for failure to save the country from this needless embarrassment and reputation damage. Nigeria Police Force has begun the collation of names of its junior officers who graduated with Bachelor of Science or higher national diploma. In a police wireless message from the force headquarters, admin and welfare Abuja, heads of all commands were directed to, as a matter of urgency, forward a comprehensive list of all inspectors as well as a rank and files serving under them with a BSc or HND certificate. The wireless message also requested the commissioners of police to forward a list of lawyers in the junior rank to the force headquarters requesting to be under serial number APF or number, rank, name, gender, date of birth, date of enlistment, date of last promotion, institution attended, discipline date graduated, date of court to bar for lawyers, phone number, email, and others. The Office of the Inspector General's Secretary emphasized that the list must be submitted on or before October 6, 2023, whereas a compelling reminder while the police commissioners were directed to treat the message as urgent while urging them to ensure there was no omission, adding that the NPF is planning to promote the graduates in the force to the senior rank of the Superintendent of Police cadre. In June, the chairman of the Police Service Commission, Dr. Solomon Arase, had said junior policemen with low degrees or other qualifications in other disciplines would soon be considered for elevation in due course, adding that the Commission may decide to send these categories of police lawyers and others, other junior policemen with additional qualifications and short service training, after which they would be properly placed as officers. You're watching the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. We'll be back after the break. Thank you for staying with us on the Global News tonight. Here is the rest of our stories. The Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center for the Defense and Security Sector, during a training program for media practitioners on security defense sector expenditure, calls for transparency and accountability in security funding and demand for open national security matters, as it is the constitutional right for the citizens to decide on how they should be secured. CISLAC Executive Director Awal Ibrahim Musa Rafsanjani, who was represented by the Senior Program Officer Ms. Beta Obimi, made the request at a one-day media workshop on defense and anti-corruption reportage, civil space and oversight in Abuja. She emphasized that the corruption in the security sector has affected the effectiveness of national security despite a huge money allocated to the sector.
If there is the need to classify any information, there should also be an opening where some information is declassified or made available to the public. The public should be carried along. We are a nation that is governed by a constitution, and the constitution says that citizens should oversee, or citizens have a say in the way they should be secured. A lot has been remitted, a lot is being allocated to the defense and the security sector. One would think that ordinarily, because of the enormous words, because of the amount of money being allocated to the defense and security sector, all the issues of insecurity would have been addressed. Unfortunately, this is not the case. It keeps moving from one level to another level, and then we want to know why. And to worsen it, the defense sector in particular is one that is shrouded in so much secrecy. Constitutionally, the defense and security sector ought to submit itself to civilian oversight. But the case we have here today is not the same. When you go to the defense sector to request for information based on the Freedom of Information Act, the issue of national security comes in to play, and they will divulge only the information that they are comfortable.
Ms. Obimi, who said the workshop was aimed at building the capacity for journalists who report anti-corruptions cases on how to dig deep in the security sector in order to hold the sector accountable.
The reason for this one-day media workshop is to build the capacity of journalists, having recognized the fact that journalists are the mouthpiece of the civil society, to build your capacity to effectively oversight the defense and security sector, asking the right questions and getting the right responses, and then putting them out in public, and when necessary, holding them accountable where they fall short of best or good practices. So that is the reason why we're here. If you look at the defense and security sector today, Nigeria, like I had noted earlier, is bedeviled with multidimensional security challenges.
ATA in Abuja correspondent Joseph Moses reports that other group partners present at the training are Transparency International, Defense and Program, and Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Netherlands. The federal government on Sunday, October 1st, 2023, reached an agreement with the leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congresses on measures to address the dispute arising from the removal of subsidy on premium motor spirit, while organized labor awaits President Tinubu's decision. This was disclosed by the presidency after a closed-door emergency meeting with the organized labor at the conference room of the Office of the Chief of Staff to Mr. President at the State House, Abuja. The NLC and TUC will consider the offers by the federal government with a view to suspending the planned strike to allow for further consultations on the implementation of the resolutions, while both parties noted that the federal government announcement of 25,000 naira is only as a provisional wage increment for all treasury paid by the federal government for 6 months. The federal government pledged its commitment to fast-track the provision of compressed natural gas buses to ease public transportation difficulties associated with the removal of PMS subsidy, among other palliative measures to be rolled out.
With Labour and government side, since 3 o'clock. We're now at 7 o'clock, so it's been about a 4-hour meeting. A lot of issues were addressed, issues that concern the Nigerian worker, the average Nigerian worker, pertinent issues. I can't begin to reel them out here, but I am happy to say that after 4 hours, we have reached certain agreements that inure to the benefit of the Nigerian worker. Agreements on wage bill, agreements on committees, on salary increment, agreements on the CN buses, agreement on several other things, I believe, both TUC, Labour and government side. We will, hopefully, we expect that Labour will call a meeting of their various branches and executive tomorrow to present the agreements that have been reached, and we pray and we believe and we hope that the strike will be called off on Tuesday. Twitter, there was a lot of chatter on Twitter about the issue of low income workers only falling into the category of the wage bill, and they spotted that, and that has we did communicate with Mr. President, and he quickly did say and agree that that all categories of workers will be given the wage bill. There's nothing like low income, mid income, or high income. It's very important for us to underscore something. Labour and government are not adversaries. Labour and government are working, at least moving forward, in partnership for the good of the common man. That's important.
Meanwhile, the organized labor argued for a higher wage award, and the federal government team promised to present Labour's request to President Bola Tinubu for further consideration.
What the Chief of Staff have said, we have been meeting, we have looked at almost all the issues, all the promissory notes, from the government, and we looked at how to translate them to reality, and to be workable, and then we're going to take those promises to our organs. Of course, these people here cannot just wake up and review and call off action. So, like he said, we're hopeful that our organs will have a look at them and give us a fresh mandate on what needs to do.
Governor Abdulrazak Abdulrahman of Kwara State and Chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and Governor Dapo Abiodun of Ogun State participated virtually in the meeting chaired by the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, amongst others. Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, has approved the appointment of Professor Jake Dan Azumi as his Chief of Staff. A statement by the Special Advisor on Media and Publicity to the Speaker, Musa Abdullahi Krishi, on Monday, said the appointment takes effect from October 17, 2023. Professor Dan Azumi is to take over from Mr. Wasiu Olaruwaju Smart, the Acting Chief of Staff to the Speaker, who is taking up another appointment, and that Mr. Smart became the Acting Chief of Staff to the Speaker of the 10th House of Representatives following the expiration of his tenure as the Chief of Staff to former Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila in the 9th Assembly. Until his appointment, Professor Dan Azumi was the technical assistant to the Director General, National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, Abuja. Jake Dan Azumi is a professor of political science and development studies and has extensive experience in development work focusing on democratic governance and public policy, parliamentary institutional strengthening and research of peace and security, human rights and conflict and peace building and gender, and previously worked as a special assistant to the President of the Senate, Senator David Mark, between 2011 and 2014. Professor Dan Azumi, who has over 14 years of cumulative experience in the National Assembly system, is an expert in the design and delivery of parliamentary and democratic support programs and holds a doctorate degree in international development from University College London, Masters in International Human Rights Law from Oxford University, a BA First Class from University of South Africa, and a BA First Class Honours from the University of Zimbabwe, where he was awarded the Book Prize for the Best Student. His other qualifications include a postgraduate diploma in research methods from the University of Bradford, UK, among others. Professor Dan Azumi hails from Zing local government area of Taraba State. And here is the business news for tonight. The managing director of Port Harcourt Refining Company Limited, Engineer Ibrahim Onoja, and the acting managing director of Warri Refining and Petrochemical Company, Mrs. Uswa Offenbach Edet, are currently under pressure to deliver as the December deadline to resume full petrol production draws near. This is coming after federal government had set the December deadline for Port Harcourt and Warri refineries to resume operations remained unchanged, adding that the federal government had hinted the two plants would kickstart operations in December by locally refining 160 barrels of crude oil per day daily, according to the projection. The Warri refinery would produce 100 barrels per day by December, while the Port Harcourt refinery would make an initial contribution of 60 barrels per day during the same period. The Minister of State for Petroleum Oil, Senator Heineken Lopobiri, disclosed this recently when he paid a visit to a refining and petrochemical company and was accompanied by the Group Chief Executive Officer of NNPCL, Mele Kiari, and other top management officials and managing directors of the strategic business unit of the oil conglomerate. According to the construction manager, Femi Fagwaro, who spoke to the MD of Warri Refinery Petroleum Company, the plant would start with 100 barrels per day, which represents about 60% of its installed capacity in December, and progress to hit optimal production capacity afterwards. On his part, the managing director of Port Harcourt Refinery Company, Engineer Onoja, said the plant would commence operations with 60 barrels per day by December and ultimately hit over 200 barrels per day in December 2024. The three tiers of government and commercial banks gained about 2.21 trillion from foreign exchange revaluation revenue. The development comes from analyzing the Federal Accounts Allocation Committee communique for June to August and the first half of 2023 statement from 5 top-tier Nigerian banks. Accordingly, the Federation earned 834.36 billion as exchange difference revenue between June and August 2023 as the 5 top-tier Nigerian banks, including First Bank, UBA, Zenith, Access, and Guarantee Trust Bank, earned 1.38 trillion naira from forex revaluation gains. By following the breakdown according to the FAC communique, the three federal, state, and local governments earned 320.89 billion in June 2023 as foreign exchange gain, while in July, FAC shared 283.9 billion exchange difference revenue to the three tiers of government, and the exchange difference revenue was 229.57 billion naira. On the part of commercial banks, First Bank Nigeria gained 16.51 billion, UBA 418.3 billion, Zenith 355.59 billion, Access Bank Holdings 244 billion, and GT Co 357.5 billion naira from foreign exchange and revaluation revenue in the first half of 2023, while some top manufacturers suffered foreign exchange losses of 495.36 billion naira. Investors on the Nigerian Exchange Limited dropped 516 billion in 1 week of trading as the volume of the trade tumbled by 65.76%. With the exchange opened for only 4 days of trading in the past week due to a public holiday, the total turnover of shares was 1.339 billion shares, worth 17.916 billion naira, which were traded in 27.874 deals. In the previous week, investors on the floor of the exchange traded a total of 311 billion shares, valued at 30.379 billion naira, which exchanged hands on 38.536 deals. The financial services industry measured by volume that the activity chart with 940.539 million shares valued at 11.370 billion naira traded in 14.627 deals, thus contributing 70.25% and 63.46% to the total equity turnover, volume, and value, respectively, while the conglomerate industry followed with 95.954 million shares worth 584.24 249 million naira in 1,760 deals, but the third place was the oil and gas industry with a turnover of 69.323 million shares worth 782.22 million in 1,688 deals. The top three equities traded include Access Holdings PLC, United Bank for Africa PLC, and Transnational Corporation PLC, measured by volume, accounted for 454 million shares worth 6.469 billion naira in 6,579 deals, contributing to 34.09% and 36.11% to total equity turnover, volume, and value, respectively. On the outlook for the week, analyses are of the view that bearish sentiment will be sustained as the market seeks catalysts and policy pronouncements to trigger bullish trading. Nigerian Institute of Building Lagos chapter has called on the federal government to intervene and reduce the cost of cement in the country. The Vice President Adeoye Thomas said the intervention of the federal government was needed to stop the skyrocketing prices of the cement. At the press briefing in preparation for the 32nd Builders Conference theme, Safe and Sustainable Building Production Management in Lagos State, he said everything is based on foreign exchange, which is very bad, and it cannot be taken away from the manufacturers of those cements because the business is to make profit, while in advanced countries, the government intervenes and it would be subsidized. In the same vein, the Honorary Secretary, Lagos State Chapter Ogundere Abiodun, said there was a need for the government to intervene in the areas where the cost of production can be reduced, especially for the new materials. Meanwhile, the immediate past chairman of NIOB Lagos State Chapter, Sunday Wusu, urged the government to make housing loans accessible to Nigerians, and this would aid in subsiding and bridging the affordability gap. On his part, the chairman of the institute, Lucky Isename, said in safe and sustainable building production management in Nigeria, the construction industry play a vital role in the development and growth of the nation. You're watching the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. Up next, international tidbits. More than 1,000 people in Bangladesh have died of dengue fever since the start of the year. Official figures showed in the country's worst recorded outbreak of the mosquito-borne disease, while the figures from the country's Directorate General of Health Services published said 1,006 people had died among more than 200,000 confirmed cases. The agency's former director, B. Nazrul Ahmed, also said the number of deaths so far this year was higher than every previous year combined from 2000, when Bangladesh recorded its first dengue outbreak. The World Health Organization Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said last month the outbreak was putting huge pressure on the health system in Bangladesh, while the dengue is a disease endemic to tropical areas that causes high fevers, headaches, nausea, vomiting, muscle pain, and in the most serious cases, bleeding that can lead to death. However, the World Health Organization has warned that dengue and other diseases caused by mosquito-borne viruses such as chikungunya, yellow fever, and Zika are spreading faster and further due to climate change. And there is entertainment news for tonight. Billionaire American hip-hop mogul Kanye West has asserted that rapper Cardi B was planted in the music industry by some disgruntled executives to replace the queen of rap, Nicki Minaj. Ye, as he is fondly called, while doubting Cardi B's talent, claimed that she doesn't write her lyrics and he thinks her rivalry with Nicki Minaj is a blessing from the universe, but it isn't. While speaking in a video trending on social media, he also said Cardi B is a plant. She doesn't write her raps. They put her there to try to replace Nicki Minaj purposely. She thinks it is a blessing from the universe. Comedian Bright Okocho, popularly called Basket Mouth, has finally apologized to his colleague Ayodeji Richard Makun, known as AY, following their 17-year-old feud. This is coming after Basket Mouth in 2021, during a black box interview with media personality Bikobi Uchendu, noted that he fell out with AY because he messed with loyalty and opined he wants that guy AY to ever hear from him, adding that they were never friends, reacting to the long-standing a media personality Chude Jidenwa in May 2023. AY said AY attributed the cause in an interview with AY that AY attributed the cause of the rift to a business transaction that went sour in 2006, and Basket Mart, who is trying to sell tickets for his upcoming show in November, sought forgiveness from AY and other people he offended. Taking responsibility for the 17-year rift, the comedian, in a video shared on his Instagram page on Monday, tendered a public apology, saying, "Regardless, please forgive me from the bottom of my heart." And here is the sports news for tonight. Supporters of Etoile, Philanthera of the Burkina Faso, have commended the players for their bravery despite the team's outstart from the CAF Confederation Cup. The Burkina Bees lost 2-0 to Rivers United in the second leg of the second qualifying round at the Adokia Amir Simeka Stadium, Port Harcourt. Alex Oyewa's brace up was enough to secure a spot for the former Nigerian Premier Football League champions in the group stage of the competition, while supporters expressed their feeling on the team's performance on the club's comment section on their X handle. A top fan of the Burkina Faso-based club, Michael Onderaugo, hoping that the defeat is equal to a victory. Liverpool are to appeal against the red card given to Curtis Jones during their controversial 2-1 defeat at Tottenham Hotspur on Saturday. Jones was set off for fouling Yves Bissouma on 26 minutes after a video assistant referee intervention. Referee Simon Hooper initially gave Jones a yellow card for the challenge, but changed his decision after going to the pitch side to monitor. Midfielder Jones, 22, faces a 3-game ban if the card is not overturned. The Nigerian Basketball Federation has invited 31 teams ahead of the 2023 NBBF Total Premier Basketball League. According to the letter from the NBBF signed by and addressed to the sports commissioners, chairman of sports commissions, and directors of sports councils, chairman secretaries of basketball association, and the general manager, club owners of all the invited teams, 16 have been invited to compete in the Atlantic Conference, while 15 teams will compete in the Savannah Conference. The first phase of the league will take place from October 2023, 24th to 30th in Asaba and Abuja, Savannah, while a date has not been fixed for the second phase. The top 8 teams from each of the conferences will advance to the second phase, while 16 qualified teams will make up the league teams. For the remaining 15 will also be relegated to Division 1. Simone Biles made history on her return to the World Gymnastics Championships in Antwerp, becoming the first woman to land a Yurchenko double pike vault. The move, now renamed the Biles 2, helped The move, now renamed Biles 2, helped the 26-year-old American into first place in all-round qualifying. Biles was competing internationally for the first time since taking a 2-year break from the sport to work on her mental health. She made a triumphant return in August, winning the U.S. Classics. Head coach Jose Santos Pereira had recalled defenders Kenneth Omeruo and Bright Osayi Samuel, as well as midfielder Alex Iwobi and forward Terem Murphy to the Super Eagles squad for this month's international friendly matches against Saudi Arabia and Mozambique and Portugal. The quartet were absent from the team that demolished Sao Tome and Principe in last month's 2023 AFCON qualifier in Uyo. The midfielder Fisayo Dele Bashiru of Hatayspor FC of Turkey gets his first ever invitation, while Pereira has decided to retain the third try of Francis Uzoho, Adebayo Adeleye Olorunleke Ojo in goal, yet to be capped. Defender Jordan Torunaringa is also called. Wilfred Ndidi, who captained the team against Sao Tome and Principe, as well as Rafael Onyedika and forward Moses Simon, Ademola Lukman, Victor Osimhen, Taiwo Awoniyi, and Kelechi Iheanacho have also been invited. The Super Eagles take on the Green Falcons of Saudi Arabia in the city of Portimao, Portugal, on Friday, 13th October 2023, starting at 5 p.m. before a clash with the Mambas of Mozambique in the same city 3 days later. And that's the size of the global news for tonight. Before we go, here is another look at the major stories. Illegal oil refining explosion kills 35 people in Rivers State. UNICAP probe panel indict Professor Ndifon of misconduct. EFCC secures arrest warrant for Desiani Alice in Madieke. Port Harcourt Water refineries under pressure of December deadline. Dengue deaths top 1,000 in worst outbreak in Bangladesh. Hip-hop mogul Kanye West speaks on the music industry. Filante fans applaud team against Rivers United. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Vivian Douglas. You can follow us on our social media platforms on X. We're Atlantic TV Net on Facebook and YouTube. We're Atlantic Television Network on Instagram and TikTok. We're Atlantic TV Network 1. Remember, the peace and unity are the pathway to progress. Have a good night.